It's kind of an interview with Bob where you get to ask the questions.
Bob, do you have any children? And if you do they come and see you once in a while on the road?
Okay, so the first question was, do I have any kids, and do they come and visit me? I have two sons. One is living and one is dead. And the living son lives in Anchorage, Alaska. I left, and he cannot comprehend how I can live anywhere but in Alaska, and I can't comprehend now how we can live in Alaska. So we've got a divide there. He does come and see me, yes. He grew up in Alaska. He was born and raised in Alaska. Alaska is a gorgeous place, and so it's easy to think when you live there all your life, there's no place else worth seeing. Well, he came down and visited with me in Utah one time and instantly fell in love with Utah. I mean, there's no place like Utah. So we've actually met 3 different times since then in Utah to go hiking and traveling and doing different things. So yes, I guess the answer is yes. I have a living son, and he does see me on the road, and I think he approves. Yeah, I think he approves. Next question.
How old is Cody?
Cody is 4 or 5 now. I'm not exactly sure. He was 2 when I got him, and I got him in. It would take me a while to think of what year I got him in. So he's either 4 or 5. He was 2 when I got him, so he was a young dog. And at first I got him from a shelter, a rescue, not a shelter, a rescue. And when I got him, he was a little rough. He would fight with other dogs. And I think part of that, he's outgrown that. Part of that is age, and I have worked hard at establishing dominance, and that he is in a eternally loving home. And so those 2 things, that I am the master, but I love him more than I love my life, that's a formula for a good dog. And he's turned into a good dog, really good dog. Yeah. And most of his problems with other dogs are gone. He's become submissive more with other dogs. Okay, what else? The question is, he enjoyed my build videos on my van, and because of them, he bought a van like mine. Am I planning any more updates to my van? My van's a little bit of a touchy. My van is a little bit of a touchy subject for me. My van's always a mess. And so everyone wants to see, let's see the inside of your van. My van's always a mess. And seems to be kind of perpetual. I'm not a pack rat, but I'm kind of just on the verge of being a pack rat. And I love camera gear. I love camera gear. And so I have camera gear coming out the wazoo. My van looks like I have camera gear coming out the wazoo. And so my van's always full. And so there probably will not be van build. That wasn't your specific question, but that is a question I get a lot. There will probably not be a tour of my van. My van will not have an open house. And updates on the van itself, that's your question. Well, the high top, of course, I did one on the high top and that disaster. And it was a disaster. And actually, Fiberine, which is the main manufacturer of high tops, I think in the country, offered to repair my van for free. Because I spoke so highly of them for free, it's a repayment for speaking of them and the free advertising I gave them. And so I will drive over to Fiberine and have them fix it and find out the truth of my van. I have concerns the top on my van will fail, either fly off or someone told me that since it's not shiny, there was no gel coat. I don't know anything about fiberglass. And no gel coat means that sun will destroy it very quickly. So I'm going to find out for them what needs to happen. So that is the only thing I have planned. Well, that's not true. I've got a lot of plans for the van. As I've said often, am I talking too much about this?
No.
Well, if you don't have any questions, I can talk forever about them, can't I? So think of some questions. One of my big things has been I've wanted 4-wheel drive. If you followed my writings or my videos, I love 4-wheel drive. I love to go out there. That's my goal. And a 2-wheel drive van does amazingly well, but so a definite plan is to put in a locker in the rear What kind of a locker, I'm not sure. True track, air, electric, ARB. That's all to be determined. So that would be a video. There will be a video on the getting that done. I'm not a mechanic, I won't do it. I have several upgrades planned for the van, and there will be videos about them. But that's all. There won't be any other. Yeah. Okay, right here. So the question was, how many times have you had to redo your van? Because you have a van and you're redoing it every 3 days. She has just bought the van, thrown stuff in, taking trips, essentially. Is that correct? And so you have a bed and you have a few probably plastic totes and drawers. And you know what? I think you are doing it perfectly. If you said to me, what's the ideal way to do it? I'd say that's the way to do it. Because, you know, a lot of people get in, build this elaborate build, and then find out, I mean, time-consuming, expensive build, and find out, I don't really like this. And the money and effort is spent. And changing it is huge then amount of time and effort and money. And I think you've done it just right. Play with it. This doesn't work. This didn't work. And then when you think something that thinks this works, make it more permanent. Build a bed, build in a cabinet, whatever works for you. I think you're doing it the best possible way. My first van, I lived in a box van for 6 years in Anchorage, Alaska. And the great thing about box vans is they're just big open boxes, literally a box. And it was square and everything was square. It did have wheel wells. So it was really easy to work with. My first night in it, I threw a pad on the ground and slept on it. That was my first night in the van. I was going through the divorce. I've said this many times, and it's absolutely the truth. I cried myself to sleep that first night. You know, look how low my life has sunk. I'm living in a van. I'm just a homeless bum. And I was working, making good income, but I was a homeless bum, and I felt that way. And then came with. It was a contractor's van that had all the racks in it, and I took them all out. And my first build was a bed across the back, and I didn't like that, and it was wasted space. So I built bunk beds, and I went to Costco and bought plastic, the plastic drawer shelf units, and just put them in and screwed them into the wall, and that worked super. That lasted another 6 years. And the bunk beds were great, the storage on the top, nice big bed on the bottom, storage underneath. I'm a fan of bunk beds if you got the room. And of course, the very first thing after that first night, I brought in my recliner. 2 thumbs up on a recliner. If you can arrange your van or a step van or whatever, and you can get a recliner in there, that's a good living. That's good living. That's something I really recommend. So that was my first build, and every van I've ever had since then, I've torn apart and over and over and over again. That's normal. I think you're doing it really well. My congratulations for stumbling on the right way to do it. And you'll find it just what you want. Okay, right back here.
All right, so first of all, you inspired me to start Odyssey Camper on YouTube, so thanks for that.
You're very welcome.
Using it as an example to show my kids how easy it is to get out there and experience life.
The more the better.
But when I watch your videos, I've noticed your van is never on leveling blocks. Does it not bother you to sleep off kilter, or do you use leveling blocks and they're just not showing up in the videos?
Well, the van won't be where I'm parked. When I shoot a video, mostly I just find a pretty place for the van, to be honest with you. And the only thought is this a good shot for the video? No, I do try to park level, and I do use leveling blocks. I use the yellow ones. I've got them in the van, of course, and you drive up on them. There are 3 tiers, and the top one's 3 inches. I'm really happy with those things. And I started out with the stacking blocks. Probably a lot of you have stacking blocks. I was not fond of the stacking blocks. I broke them a lot, and I wasn't fond of them. I didn't think I could get as high as I could with these. So I do try and get level if I have to. I can live with some off level. As long as my head is high, that's something I would encourage for all of you. Make sure your head is high. Even if you're off level, if your head is high, you'll sleep. Maybe not your best. Yep.
How long have you been living in your van, in a van or a box van?
How long? That's a very good question. The first 6 years in Anchorage, Alaska in the box van. And then I remarried and moved into a house and despised every second of living in that house. I honestly did. That's what you're supposed to do, so we did, and I hated that house. After that, we retired, my ex-wife and I, and moved to North Carolina. and we lived together. I told her I could not live in houses anymore. She said, okay, we'll try you just taking trips. And there are probably couples right here doing just that. The one cannot live in a house, the one can't leave the house, and so what do you do? I was going to take trips, see if I could scratch my itch that way and live in the house. I could not. Telling you my whole life story here. I sat down in front of the TV and watched it. If I wasn't on a trip, I was sitting in front of the TV and watching it. Or on her days off, we'd go hiking and we'd go out and whatever. But if she was at work, which was 40 hours a week, I wasn't sitting in front of the TV dying, and that wasn't acceptable. And the taking trips was wonderful. I did take quite a few trips around the East Coast. We were in Asheville, North Carolina, but that wasn't good enough. So I went back on the road. That was in 2008. So I've been on the road continuously since 2008. The first 6 years were in Alaska. The last since 2008, 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in March. I've been in the lower 48, living boondocking exclusively. I have spent less than $50 on camping in the last 10 years. So it's been exclusively, and that was started out in a F-150 Ford four-wheel drive truck, on a camper, a shell, tall camper shell I built and put on it. And then the truck just kind of fell apart around me, and I got into a van and then a different van. So 18 years, 10 and 8, 10 and 6, 16 years. Total in 2 blocks. Okay, question over here. First question is, do I have any advice for a new person to YouTube? I was baffled by opening a YouTube channel. I'm not going to deny it. And I had friends set it up. In fact, the reason Jamie and I originally started the channel together, you may or may not be aware of that, is I was just overwhelmed by the whole act of setting up a YouTube channel. And I love photography. I've been a photographer all my life. I've owned first film SLRs and then digital DSLRs all my life, and I love cameras, but know nothing about video or audio in particular, and I'm not good with new things online or technical things. I get them eventually, but it's a real slow process. So that's why Jamie and I started our channel together. He had all that down. He knew how to edit. He was on YouTube already. He and I started our channel together, and then we went our separate ways, and then I was forced into starting my own channel, and I just asked people around. So how do you start a YouTube channel? Can't answer that because I'm just no knowledge about that. I think I'm fairly good with behind the camera. I came in with photography knowledge and skills, and I'm a learner. I love learning, and so I watched the videos and read the books. I like reading books. I've done all that. Audio was by far the hardest thing because it's so far out of the norm, and it's so important. My first piece of advice to everyone coming in thinking about doing YouTube is to learn audio, because they've done studies. They set up an experiment in some office and had people there waiting, and they put a TV up, and for a while the audio was perfect, and the screen got worse and worse and worse and worse. And how long would people watch that? And they would watch it a long time. They would watch it until they were basically just listening. They could live with that okay. They got tired of it eventually and turned it off. And they had the right to turn it off. And then they did just the opposite. The picture was perfect the whole time, and the audio got worse and worse and worse and worse. And the audio, they would not put up with that. They had a perfect picture, but they wouldn't put up with the bad audio. Audio is more important than video. That's one of the things I've learned. And my advice to you is learn audio, and it's still a puzzlement to me, but I think I've gotten some ideas of how to do it. And most of you are going to start out with your smartphone. People are on YouTube, and you're just using your smartphone? No? Are you buying cameras? Are there any of you on YouTube? No, you're not doing it. Just a couple. Well, actually, we're going to do a seminar on some day of the week. I don't know what. Does anyone know the day? Tuesday? Wednesday? Thursday at 2? 4. And I'm going to actually talk about camera gear. My camera's right here, and my audio is right there. if you ask me which camera to buy, I would tell you right now a Canon SL2 and either a Rode or a Shure microphone. That is a Shure shotgun microphone. I would also recommend wireless, having at least one good wireless recorder. You'll cover a lot of bases. Okay, is that enough? Is that enough?
Yeah.
It sounds like there aren't many YouTubers here who are interested in that. Okay, next. Yeah. The first one's relatively easy. He asked two questions. He said, how many people showed up for this one? How many do you think, how big it will get to be? I was just, we were in real close contact with the BLM. The BLM is, there's a huge group. And so they're very concerned. And we have just had a wonderful relationship with the BLM. They've been kind and reasonable in every way. And just today I said, well, what else can we do for you? Are you satisfied? No problems. He's entirely happy with us. He estimates, and he says he always estimates conservatively we have 3,000 here now. My guess is 4, closer to 4, and he wouldn't, and we said that, and he said that's a distinct possibility. There were more like 4, but that he tried to be conservative. So 3 now, probably between 3 and 4,000. That's a fair guess. And as you've noticed, we've already outgrown the land. I mean, we are packed in here, and we are limited to that side. There's no more camping beyond there. We can't keep going that way because it gets really rough. And I don't think we can go that way because we run into more washes. So I just met with another BLM ranger today, and I believe I found us a new spot for next year that will allow us to grow. I believe we can grow almost indefinitely. Although if we double every year, I think we will have doubled since last year. Next year, bigger. Well, the great thing about the BLM, as long as they're cooperating with us, look at Burning Man. Now, this is never going to be a Burning Man. But look at Burning Man. It didn't start at 60,000. I don't know what the first Burning Man in the Nevada desert was, but it wasn't 60,000, and it got bigger. And the BLM, the BLM, we tend to hate them, and they're good people, and they want this to happen. They want the land to be used for recreation by us. They'll work with us to make it happen if it doubles or triples over the next 10 years. I believe that they'll just work with us and we'll make it work. So is there a fear it will grow too big to be practical anymore? We'll go the way of the Burning Man. We'll start charging because the cost will become too high. $5 a head initially, but it would have to grow. I mean, if someday we have 100 porta potties out here, well, I'm not putting up the money up front for 100 porta potties, so we would have to charge, and it would change and evolve, just like Burning Man has. And we all complaining about Burning Man, but it has to evolve if it gets bigger. My goal now is to, up till now it's been 100% a one-man show. I've done it all, and because I was never sure who would be here. Lots of people say they will be here, but then they aren't here. And I knew I would be here. And it was small enough I could be a one-man band, and I've always been a one-man band. This year we have turned it over to others, and if you've been around a while, you know I am in a much better place emotionally and in every way because of that. My goal is to turn it over. I am already thinking ahead towards my death, and which is something I recommend. I've got videos about it. I think every one person here should be honoring their death in their life, and I'm honoring my death in my life by making this thing outgrow me. She asked about solar, and I'm getting this question a lot. Here's something I would like to do. In the past, we've offered people to try to put people together and get people to do solar for you. There are people who can do solar for you, but there's so many, it's become impractical just for them to volunteer because they'll spend every minute installing people's solar, and you can't ask people to do that. In the past, they've been allowed to charge, and they could say, I could put you together with Tim or George or Joe or John, who knows what he's doing, and he would do it for you and give you, maybe he'd Some of them would trade meals. I've known guys who did full installs for a meal, or multiple meals. If you make me a meal every day of the seminar, and I'll put in your solar. Well, that's a pretty good deal for you. And he's glad. But now with the BLM's insistence on no commerce, that's gone. So I can't even tell you who could install it for you. I can tell you about Discount Solar, who will put it in for you, put it in extremely well, and at top dollar. But it will be done right, which is maybe worth top dollar. So I haven't come up with a solution yet. No, there is not another class on solar. That was the one and only. We are going to do a little thing which is super simple, but may help a lot of you. We're going to make a solar generator. Another question right here? Yes, my camp has always been open in the past. Keywords there being in the past. Yes, I have never, I live my life wide open, right out in front. And there have been a lot of people camped with me. I've had many people write me and say they were in trouble, particularly women. Can you come and camp with me? And I'd get them started. Deborah Dickinson would be a prime example. But numerous. Kathleen in the car, I've got her video. She came and camped with us for 3 weeks, and then I sent her off to another lady. For those experienced, that's what I'd like to do, is set up a mentorship program of experienced, particularly women, because it's the women who need it the most, I think. And that could sound sexist, but I'm sorry, I think it's true. And for men both, of course, but women are going to be more comfortable with other women. And so I'd like to set up a mentorship program. That is a priority to me, so that you can go, because I can't do it anymore by myself. In fact, I'm not planning on doing it anymore at all. One of my commitments to myself is to get more alone time and not have my camp open all the time. That's just something I am going to have to do. I have to realize that I can't work one-on-one with 4,000 people, but I can make a video that will get 1 million views. And which of those is the better use of the time I have on this earth? If I can organize a mentorship program and make the million view videos and make them synergistically meld together, that's the best use I have of the time I have on earth. So that's my goal. Yes. How old? She's wondering the age of most nomads. They're older. Look around and you'll see that we're predominantly older. We have retirement income, but you look around, and particularly all around camp, and you'll see younger and younger people, many younger people, and many people are being forced into it, of all ages, but particularly the old. But young people are choosing it more than being forced, although some are being forced into it. But many younger people are choosing it. They're disillusioned and don't have hope for their futures, and so they are choosing it. So I would, if the age is, my answer is still yes, it's predominantly older, but not all. Lots of younger people. Yeah.
So what makes your heart happy, and what are you doing with all that alone time you're trying to get more of?
Well, when I get some, the question was what makes my heart happy, and what am I doing with all that alone time I'm going to get hold of? Well, when I get hold of some alone time, I will tell you what I will do with it, because I haven't had hardly any. It's been an unusual year, of course, living with my mother. What makes my heart happy? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day of your life, and your heart will sing nonstop. And that's my answer, that I love what I do. I love what I do, and it makes my heart happy. I just need to focus more on what I love to do, which is, I love being in nature, primarily alone, and I love making videos that I know will impact people's lives. So that makes my heart happy. Yes. A very, very wise woman. We have someone here who does palm readings, and a very, very wise woman who did palm readings and comes every so often. Not enough. I went in for a palm reading. I'm open to any idea. I'm a spiritually tuned in guy, and I don't embrace astrology or palm reading, but I don't reject it either, and so I'm completely open to it. And she gave me a really interesting palm reading, and what came to her was Kokopelli. Now there's kind of a negative part of Kokopelli that I would not relate to, but the idea of fertility and new life, that was, some of you may have any idea what a Kokopelli is. Kokopelli was a Kachina, would that be the right word, of the Anasazi people who lived all across the Southwest. And it's a little figure, it kind of looks, most people will say it's a bug-like with a flute, and the Anasazi legends were that he traveled around and brought fertility. I thought of him as Pied Piper because of the flute. I thought of the Pied Piper, who, of course, negative connotations to the Pied Piper too. Leaving off all the negative connotations, spreading the good news. That's what I got out of Kokopelli. If you're interested, it's Kokepelli. It's the best I can do without seeing it written in front of me. Pied Piper, good news. So, hadn't thought of myself as Moses. Yes.
The significance of your tattoos.
This one was the first tattoo I got. It is a dream catcher, and with a feathers, and it has two words on it that are written upside down so that I see them and you can't. The person looking can't. And the two words are humility and surrender. Two words that are vital to my well-being and always want them to be in view. And so they are now literally constantly in my view. The other one I got was this one, which now has a great big scar in it. Gives it a little character, I think. And it has 3 Oriental characters. And the 3 Oriental characters are Zen, Earth, Drifter. And that just really spoke to me. And it has flowing water, which that's what all this is. This is water, and the tattoo artist said, well, why don't we put some lily pads in with the flowing water? Because you can't really tell it's flowing water. He did a really good job with the lily pads. I was actually really happy with this one. So this is, it reflects the 2 main spiritual foundations of my life, Native American and Zen Taoist. The other one I got on my, it was really poor. The guy did just a terrible job. What it is a winding road going off into the sunset. There's a road sign here, and it says, I can't even read it anymore, if I ever could. I don't even remember what it says. And I can't read it. The guy did a terrible job. I should go in and get it fixed, but I have never done so. So that's my tattoos. And yes, one more? Well, I saw a hand. Yes. Well, the question was, what makes you decide, when you go back into the woods, how long do you stay there? Why do you stay there? And what makes you decide to go? Stay a week or stay a month? What do you decide? And I don't know that I have an answer. I do tend to move more than most people. Yes. Favorite place I've been? Well, we only have a little time left. If we had a year or two, I could tell you. Let me tell you some of my favorite towns, because usually I'll go to those towns and visit the places around them. Jackson, Wyoming, is at the very, very top of the list because man, there's a lot to see around Jackson. One of the favorite things I did. I don't much care for Yellowstone because it's just the crowds and the traffic. I can't stand it. And I was thinking about writing a travel book about Wyoming, and so I went to I drove all the scenic byways in Wyoming. That's a stunning place. We think of it as being high prairie with a few gorgeous mountains, but it really is a gorgeous place. And so I would say maybe Wyoming with all of the scenic highways. And what I really loved was I camped outside all the 5 entrances into Montana, into Yellowstone. and I really enjoyed all of them a lot. So Jackson, Wyoming, which would be Yellowstone right there. I love Leadville. I love all of Colorado. Silverton, Colorado is one of my favorite places. Moab. Those would be the four. Very, very far away and hard to reach is Homer, Alaska. Homer, Alaska is really a stunning place. Kind of expensive. It's hard to find a place to camp. In fact, I just stayed on the spit. If you've ever been, anybody here been to Homer? You go to Alaska, you should go to Homer. And I would just usually camp out on the spit and pay. That's one of the few times I'll pay just to be there. Yeah. How often do I eat and cook? And do I eat in the van or out of my van? I will absolutely not talk about it. That's just a joke. I will tell you about it. Let me just say, I'm actually just a typical American bachelor in the way I cook, which means I eat out some. And what I've fallen into that works in my life, because I don't like cooking or cleaning, mainly cleaning, is I've fallen into eating Marie Callender's frozen meals. And I will only eat Marie Callender frozen meals that have broccoli in them. And there's some I love. I mean, I really love them. They have a fish one and on and on and on, and turkey. And so I eat broccoli every meal, which that is the only way I am ever going to eat a vegetable. And so to me, it's worth, they're really good. They're $2.50 each. I can afford to spend $2.50 for a meal, or they're $2.50 at Walmart. And 3 minutes in the microwave. I let them thaw. I don't have a freezer, so I buy them. I put them in the freezer. They thaw. They last a long time thawed in the fridge. And then I microwave them and I throw them away. It's not really good for the earth, but I think on balance, my life is better than 99% of this country for the earth, and this is a bad thing I'm doing, but it's way more than offset by everything else. So that's the way I look at it. Yes, what else? Common mistakes new people make. I've never given that one a thought. That's a really good question. That's a good video. Disorganization. Too much, of course. Too much stuff. Everyone brings too much stuff. Is there anyone that didn't bring too much stuff? Too much stuff. Not having an organization for the stuff. You start shuffling it around, and boy, that's pure misery. For some people, it's doing an elaborate build that they didn't hate. That is really fairly common. That is a really good question. I'll have to give that more thought. I can't, that's the best I can do off the top of my head, but that's a really good question. Yes. So the question was, how much time do I spend answering emails? It's my goal to answer every question and to the best of my ability, and to be as kind and encouraging as I can be in every email. She was asking, why did I start not the YouTube channel, this was the website. I started my website, Cheap RV Living, in 2005. So 13, is that right? 13 years ago? And it went along, and then in 2008, when the crash came, it exploded. No one cared before then. But when the crash came and everyone was moving into cars, and they Googled, how do I live in a car, or how do I live in a van, or how do I live cheap, because they were being kicked out of their houses, they came to me and my website exploded. And for a very long time I wanted to be on YouTube, but again, I just couldn't face the overwhelming learning curve of all that until Jamie came along, and so I owe Jamie a very big thanks. Very, very big thanks for that. The story is, and I've told it before, is I was living in Anchorage, Alaska. I believe it was October. It was cold, but not below zero. I woke up one morning, went out, was going to drive off, and there was a car parked beside me. It was cold enough that there was frost on the window. If you live in a car in the cold, the inside window is going to be covered with frost. You can't, almost nothing you can do to prevent it. In the 20s, it's just going to happen if you're inside it. And so I looked over, and this was completely covered with frost, which meant, and it was a grocery store parking lot. There shouldn't have been anybody there, and that meant there was someone inside it. I knew that, and every cop in the world knew that too. And so I looked over in an end, and I could just see through the frost enough to see that it was a lady and her 3 kids. And at that moment, every so often I am tremendously empathetic, and I can just feel other people's feelings. I don't know how or why. And and I'm a parent, and what was that lady feeling with her 3 kids in a car in Alaska in the teens, 10, it couldn't have been warmer than 20 degrees. And she was, kids are so adaptable, they were probably fine. They thought it was fun. But what did she feel like? And what was she going to do with her life? Hopefully she was on her way to help and her life. And I didn't go in and talk to her. But I just knew I had to help people. That there were people who needed to hear what I had to say. That there was another option. And I started the website, which evolved over the next 13 years, did we say? 13 years to the YouTube. Well, this is not the norm. We're not usually packed in all together like this, so the norms really don't apply here. Almost universally, it's quiet time is before 8 in the morning and what am I trying to say?
10 p.m. to 6 to 8 a.m. is, you can't.
8 a.m. to 10 p.m. is quiet time.
No, 10 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night.
Is quiet time. Right, there we go. I was trying to say noise time. I was telling you noise time. That's the accepted hours. And then there's the length of time you're running your generator. If you fire it up or run an hour, most people won't care, and it depends on the noise of the generator. If it's a Honda, they will really not care. If you fire up a Briggs, the Staten, and run it 8 hours a day, people are not going to be happy. And it doesn't matter what time of the day is, they're not going to be happy. And anytime but this one, I would just say move away. If someone comes up next to me and sets up with a generator, turns it on, I turn the key and I drive away. I can't do that here because I'm here for an event and you're here for an event. So we're stuck with each other. You have to be really careful and thoughtful. That's all. That's all that it ever really comes down to. Being thoughtful. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep missing you. Yes, I haven't done a blog post since April. And it really is simple math. A blog post will impact, it'll get a couple thousand, maybe in its life, 5,000, 10,000 reads. And with a little luck, I can get 1 million. I have a couple of videos that have gotten 1 million views. Well, the simple math is where is my best use of time? And obviously it's YouTube. And I don't have enough hours in a day. I'm working really hard at cutting back on all that I do and doing only the things that are most impactful. And so that wasn't the blog. It's a lot of work. The blog took a surprising amount of time to put together a blog post. So yes, the answer is the blog. Blog, as far as I'm concerned, is done for. I won't do blog posts anymore. Yes, and she asked, am I personally enjoying this more because I have help? I'm not sure I've ever enjoyed an RTR. It's always just been so much work. And so it has to be more. And yes, I am actually enjoying it. I'm enjoying meeting people and spending time. And I love knowing that you are here and you have been helped. And that is so important and meaningful to me. So I am really enjoying it. And it is all because I have help and have turned it all over and have the energy to enjoy it. That's the only reason. Mainly Jude and Matt, who have taken the lion's share of all of it that I've done in the past. So, yeah, very much. Yes. 2006. I can answer that question. When was the last time I had a short haircut and no beard? Was 2006 when I retired from Safeway. Never cut my hair since. I had a gal who was a good hair cutter, and I would let her trim it once a year. I got a once a year haircut, but she's not around anymore, and I just don't do it. So, pardon me. Oh, I don't think it is. No one's ever satisfied with their looks, of course, but I just don't want to mess with it. I don't want anything to do with it. It just grows and does what it does. Yes. Well, it's a really funny thing. Of course, I love being recognized. I do. I love being famous in a tiny. I like to tell everyone I am a big fish in a tiny, tiny, tiny pond. I mean, people who live in vans and RVs, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny pond. But I'm a fairly big fish in that tiny, tiny pond. And sure, I like it. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy people coming up. Carolyn and I have talked about this, and she's kind of afraid she's given mixed messages. Carolyn loves it when you come up and say hi in a grocery store or around town. I do too. I don't mind at all. That isn't a sacrifice for me. Yes. She asked about the future of federal land. We have elections every 4 years.
It's already been reversed.
Not really very much. Yeah, much less. She's asking. They're already giving away all the land, and are we going to lose it all? And he's done horrible things to the earth, and Trump is doing everything he can to do harm to the earth. That's his goal, as far as I can see. I don't see how anyone could argue with that. But he can do surprisingly little. What he's done is bad, but no, it's surprising how little he's done. And just like he's reversing everything Obama did, his can mostly all be reversed too. Okay, now what do you want to do? I'll stand around and visit. How about that? I'm more than willing to stand around and visit for as long as you're willing to tolerate me.